I just want to take a couple minutes here and go over an idea that I had. I think it's going to work pretty good, but before I get into that idea, I just want to talk a little bit about my staking system and kind of how I do things here in Pennsylvania. For years, I've used duckbills, and duckbills were a good stake. I had a lot of luck with them, in my ground, maybe 1 out of a dozen, 2 out of a dozen on a real dry year. When you would pull them, it would actually break the aluminum eye. But they've gotten very expensive and somewhat hard to get. And, pulling them, I always said about disposable stakes, well, you got to make new ones every year. But pulling them, you had to go and clean them all out. And I still like duckbills, but the last couple seasons here, I have gone to Berkshires, the standard Berkshire stake. And in my opinion, this is probably the best cable staking system out there with one big negative. And the big negative is they're not reusable. When you pull these out, that stake will just fold up, bend up. But, for a cut and go type system, or if you don't care about making stakes up every year, these really work awesome. They work great and they hold great. So I can't say enough good things about the standard Berkshires, the cheapest one. And in my, shaly, rocky ground, these things work great. So people are going to ask me what length cable I run on them. So we will just say the part that sticks in the ground. The part that sticks in the ground, I use about 9 inches of cable. And I could get by with that. I don't have muddy, soft soil. I have shaly, rocky, hard ground. There might be one place out of 100 that, this might be not sufficient if you get a coyote. It'll hold fox anywhere. Maybe somewhere in a low-lying area where it's real wet and soft. But, 99% of the time, this length is going to work for me. And like I said, my ground is very rocky. So as with the duckbills, I do the same with the duckbills. As with the Berkshires, I drive a pilot hole, and that orange tape on there, that's just, I put that on my pilot hole maker to know how deep I got to go. I don't want to have to take one extra swing with that hammer. So that's what that orange tape is. I figured there might be questions on that, but I make a pilot hole. There's nothing that goes in the ground easier than 1/2-inch smooth rod. I've tried bullet stakes, and they're great stakes, but I just have a really hard time pounding them in the ground, especially without a pilot hole. So I make a pilot hole for everything. And of everything out there, I'll argue this with anybody, there's nothing that goes into pounds in the ground easier than smooth 1/2-inch rod. Yeah, smaller diameter rod will go in easier, but that isn't going to make you much of a pilot hole. So this is what I use to make a pilot hole, and I just always had a lot of these in the truck. I'd weld them up, and this is the standard Berkshire driver. I mean, you can get these from sterling fir. In fact, you can get your stakes from sterling fir. Your stake heads. I believe they also have ones made up with the cable on, but I just buy the heads and put the cable on myself, especially because I use a really short cable compared to a lot of guys. But this is your standard 3/8-inch driver from sterling fir, and most trap supply dealers would recommend this driver for driving the Berkshires. And it works for driving them, but you do need a pilot hole. It fits on there real nice. But you do need a pilot hole. In my soil, you'll destroy this driver real quick, and they'll go in really hard without a pilot hole. So I just wanted to show, the industry standard 3/8-inch Berkshire disposable stake driver. Now, these are just some of my old pilot hole makers. As you can see, That's just been peened out, mushroomed out big time from pounding on it. You know, pounding a lot of pilot holes. And this was the handle. Broke off in 2 pieces. One was on each side. I've just found anytime you weld on weld on a driver of any sort, and you pound on it a lot, it just stress cracks. Unless you just beef a driver up and reinforce it to the point where it's that heavy that you don't even want to use it anymore. You know, you're gonna break handles, and you're just gonna mushroom things out, and welds are gonna break, and you know, even things, you know, handles are gonna break off, even not at the weld, they'll break. This was another one. This one I had a nut welded on top, but that's peened. That was welded a couple times. One half of the handle broke off, and I just welded it up, you know, so I could get by. But I had a bunch of these, and, you know, I always just went by the theory of, you know, I'll just carry extras, which is fine, but you got to weld them up and fix them up, and that's just more work. So in an effort to, I'm going to get rid of these, throw these on the floor, but in an effort to carry less equipment, I played around with the 1/2-inch rod, and if you take it to your bench grinder and you get the point just right, that Berkshire stake will fit on that perfectly. So that's a 1/2 inch. That's a lot beefier than that 3/8. But I still like to use a pilot hole. Make a pilot hole first before I pound it in, because once your pilot hole is made, you just simply tap the stake in the ground. It's real easy. It's not a lot of effort. It's a few extra seconds time, but you're not expending a lot of calories, pounding it in after you have that pilot hole. Your pilot hole is where your work is involved. So this eliminated me from having to carry, a pilot hole maker and a stake driver. Just by that grind to that point, that will make this work with a standard Berkshire stake. So my theory was to, cut a bunch of these 1/2-inch smooth, go to the steel supply store, get a bunch of these 1/2-inch smooth rods, grind the ends, and have them on hand. If you bend them or mess them up over time, you have a couple spares. But, the handle has always been an issue for me to, have handles hold up. They would always break off. And the reason you need a handle, I need a handle. If I hit a lot of rocks or roots and stuff, I need a handle so I can twist on that driver to get it out of the ground. I need to be able to twist it. I'm sure you could carry, I thought about carrying a vice grip, and I do carry a vice grip in case a handle would break off, that you can, you don't want to let a stake out in a farmer's field, a driver. But, like I said, the welding, they don't last real long, and it still involves me having to, weld them up and make them up and, cut the handles and all that. So this is something I'm going to try for next year. And what that is a 1/2-inch cable clamp. And all I did was, it doesn't really matter what you use. I just had this small piece of angle iron. I drilled 2 holes in that to run that U-bolt through. And you just tighten it up with a wrench. And that is what because there's no welds to break here. Like I said, I didn't try this yet. This might still stress crack. But we're going to try it. If that handle doesn't stress crack, once this, driver gets bent and really peened out, bad mushroomed out, you just undo the nuts and put it on another rod. Now, I will say this. You're probably not going to be able to see this in the video, but I did just notch it just a little bit on my bench grinder, so that U-bolt kind of laid in there real nice so it doesn't twist on there. But once you tighten it up, it's really tight. So that's kind of my, quick dirty on how I stake on my landline. And I'm really kind of excited about trying this out, see how this idea works. I was always looking for a way to not weld a handle on a driver, because the welds always seem to break. And I mean, if I could get, you know, even 4 uses out of this, you know, taking this handle off and putting it on a new rod, even 4 uses out of it, that would save, you know, a lot of time in the shop. And, you know, if you have a bench grinder, grinding that point on there is, you know, real easy. So yeah, like I said, I'm excited to try this out. And if you want to give it a try, it's, you know, you have a metal shop, or it doesn't take a lot of tools to make these. It's just a 1/2-inch cable clamp. I picked it up at Tractor Supply, and I might make 1 or 2 more yet. And like I said, we're gonna try this out and see how it works. But it's gonna work. I just don't know how long it's gonna last. Hopefully, it lasts a long time. So, till next time, trappers. Catch you later.